Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Leadership Demystified. I am Suman Saurabh from Ixchel.life, and along with my co host for the podcast, Pooja, is excited to introduce a name that had people tuning into the Bollywood channel in Singapore between 5 to 8 pm every single day from its inception in 2009. She co founded Radio Masti 96.3 as a hobby and now recognized as one of the top 50 most influential women in Singapore. She also received the Indian Women Entrepreneur Awards in 2012. Welcome, Renuka Arora Bhagat, to the Leadership Demystified.
Hi, Suman. Hi, Pooja. Having me today on your show. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Sure. Of course, while you were introducing me, you did mention that I started it as a hobby way back in 2009, actually. Um, I just moved to Singapore a few years ago, prior to 2009, and I used to be an ardent listener of radio. And I was missing my music. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of other facilities that we have today to listen to music, right? So I just sort of sent out a letter to MediaCorp, which is in Singapore, and I asked them. I said, guys, you have so many people around, the Indian people, and it's not only Indians who listen to Bollywood, right? There's Malays who love the Khans. There's the Southeast Asian community, the Bangladeshis, the Sri Lankans, the Pakistanis. They all enjoy Bollywood music. So, with Singapore being pretty much a base for a lot of communities, why don't you have a Bollywood radio? So surprisingly, I got a response. Yeah, which I was frankly not expecting. Yeah, and then that's how my journey started. Well, initially there was a gap of a year when things didn't happen, but they did get another Bollywood radio, which couldn't stick around for more than a year. So they kind of left the scenes and then they contacted me again, got me connected to somebody who was also looking at a similar kind of an opportunity. And the two of us started Radio Masti way back in 2009.
That's really interesting, Renuka. So, you were getting into this field where you have not worked before, you have no expertise, no experience, and you were just starting out as a hobby. So I wonder, what kind of challenges did you face?
Sure, Saman. When we talk about challenges, there's a personal life, there's a professional life we're talking about. Uh, in my life, there's another one which is my corporate career as well, which I still pursue, right? So what happened was that I was working as a management consultant, which I still actually do. And at that time, I started with the radio and of course my personal life, right? So it was kind of a complete new area. And I was not from the radio industry back in Delhi. As I mentioned, I was just a listener. So when I was introduced to this somebody who wanted to start a Hindi radio, or who got the connect to start with the Hindi radio only, he didn't speak the language. so so it was like we had our mutual strengths that brought us together. So on one side, the partner I had with the initial Radio Masti, not anymore. This guy was had a radio background. I didn't have that. He did not have the language. He didn't have the understanding of Singapore. I did. So it was kind of, a good match of strengths, I would say. The challenges, of course, for Radio Masti have been primarily that we are in a foreign country. It is not as easy to establish a foreign language in a country where it is not one of the spoken, recognized languages, right? So, to be able to establish something which is totally alien, or rather to bring in something which is not the usual, the challenges were many. So, for example, the employment pass of a radio jock who had to be brought in from India, we didn't want the local flavor. We wanted the Indian FM flavor to be in Singapore, right? So, and it's not easy to find people who can speak that language or really do it. So that was one of the initial challenges. So we didn't get the person on time. We had to start the contract on the 28th of November 2009, and I had to go on air, without any prior experience. So it was like, okay, I can speak the language. I know what is expected. I've been listening to radio. All I have to do now is get ahead with recorded shows and get this going till we get this guy from India, to join us somehow. So so that was one of the initial ones. We faced that. Then, of course, getting the clients on board, making people realize that radio is going to add value to your businesses, getting a lot of listenership. We kind of had our bit, I would say.
Absolutely. So, Renuka, while you were taking us through your journey, and later on you mentioned that you are even a management consultant, could you please tell us something more about that?
Sure, Pooja. So, I'm so, many people don't quite believe this because from a 3-hour station that we started right on expat radio for MediaCorp, we've kind of converted to a 24 by 7 channel last year because of some changes to the government policies. So, of course, I've always pursued my career. So, I am an HR systems and process leader. I have worked with companies like Ernst& Young, starting with my career, going into Nokia, and more recently with an Australian company that I'm associated with at the moment. So, that is something which has been my profession all the time, and I didn't want to leave that. So it brings a very different kind of a high, when you kind of go out there, there's a different kind of a recognition. You're talking to the best in that industry, and you're learning a lot. On the other side, there's a hobby, right, which started as a hobby. It was a passion, it remains a passion. um, but I never thought that I'm going to be 100% entrepreneur in my life. I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. My father's been at the top of the helm on the Indian government. My sisters, we are four sisters. I had, the eldest one is a doctor. The second is a chartered accountant. The third is a banking professional. Um, and then it's me. So it's kind of, we never really thought that we're going to be into something like a business community. So it never struck me that I should be just going ahead with radio and giving up my profession. But yeah, it's very, very challenging because on one hand you have a global role to play with the multinationals. On the other side, you have a 24 hours channel to run with people. I have about 6 RJs on the show. I have a production team, a sales team, a programming discussion, and on top of that, we have the clients. We have a lot, and media has to be a very responsible area because one single word which is not spoken correctly on air, the listeners can be very sensitive. So so yeah, it's a full-time job, and then of course my daughter and my family. Yeah, so
That's wonderful, Renuka. I mean, we have an HR professional and what significance do you think age, gender, experience, and education have in the ability to lead and inspire?
well, I think I would prioritize that in terms of the background that you have and the education that, of course, plays a role. But that doesn't quite say that people who are not educated cannot be, good leaders, or comparatively less educated cannot be good leaders. So I wouldn't say that. But I think each one of these does have a role to play. With age comes experience. You may not um, you may not be equally matured, but definitely you've gone through the ups and downs of life, and they do bring their own set of learnings and experiences, which is unmatched. So if I would compare a 40-year-old to a 25-year-old Ivy League graduate, uh, I would still say that there are some positives that the former can bring to the table, and you just cannot rely on 100% on the best of breed. So I would think that there is a different combination, a set of combinations that's really required to be the right leader in the industry, of course, that you are in. So that also differs.
Mhm. Uh, so Renuka, I'm quite curious out here, especially now you have many young leaders who are like coming up, and you have like, because for the youngsters, I think they take entrepreneurship as the next kind of in thing, kind of thing. So we had this question, especially from the viewers, that how much correlation, how education is correlated, and is it the institute which plays the important role, or is it the network what you gain during your education?
I think there's a lot of focus on entrepreneurship, and rightly so, because in the future, um, if we always, as parents as well, we tell our children that be less dependent on organizations. So try to get onto some vocation in a way that you yourself can be an institution in yourself. So we do encourage, be a doctor, be some kind of a creative person, a photographer, or whatever. Yeah, but move around with your own skills and just be able to establish yourself, because it's a global economy now. We're not talking about boundaries anymore. So on one side, I feel that it's great that students of today get into entrepreneurship, but I think on the other side, institutions do play a very big role in developing as well. So the initial stages of life, if you can sort of be connected with an institute that also promotes a lot of other factors which are required to get on your own later, I think one should grab that opportunity, because end of the day, you do learn by making mistakes, right? And if the mistakes are at the cost of the other, maybe it's much better.
So very practical insight given by Renuka out there. I think which is very useful for across all the age groups, Renuka. I think not only the youngsters.
Yeah, it's just more. I guess it's more candid, because end of the day, you do want to be on your own. But if you decide to just get on your own and set up your own shop and kind of make your own investments and in there, and you have one or two failures, it's fine. You still learn. But if you that at the organization, I guess when you be more in control.
So I think the important takeaway is yes, education does play an important role. All these factors they do play an important. Uh, what is really important is go take a plunge, learn before you start off your own. So I
Yeah.
think another question, which is a very loaded question, and the debates have been going around this question for ages. So Renuka, do you think leadership is something which is inbuilt or it can be cultivated? As somewhere even you mentioned while you were discussing that in your family, no one had an entrepreneur background and you started off with it. So I think we would love to hear your take on this. Is leadership innate or can it be cultivated?
I think you just caught me there. So if I say that it has to be cultivated, obviously I'm going against. I'm contradicting myself. So no, not really. I think leadership again, it depends on how you define it. So I guess leadership is there. It's genetic. There is some kind of a leadership. It's a part of your personality to a large extent. But just like any other aspect of your personality, I mean, you may be a good singer, right? But if there's potential and nobody's really helped you, the environment has not really helped you, you will not reach the level that you could have potentially reached if it was kind of cultivated, right? So, in the same way, I feel that at aspects like leadership or any other for that matter, we're born with it. But again, the environment and where we are, and the family and the people we associate ourselves with, they have a big role to play in that. And if it is killed in the primary stages, in one way or the other, it will be on the back burner somewhere. You will show it, but not in the way that it would lead you to the next level, right? So I guess it's a combination. If you're not a leader, some people are fantastic at executing tasks, right? They will not lead, but they are fantastic at executing. So that's another aspect which needs to be, which probably they decided to put ahead of the leadership style, right? Depends.
Uh, so Renuka, now I'm quite curious to know that you said it's a blend of both, something which is innate and which can be obviously manifested by the right environment around. So what about I mean, especially when people are hiring individuals, for senior positions, and even you being from HR and being an entrepreneur. So you may not get all the skills in one. So what's a practical tip or insight which you could give out to the people that while they are hiring, what are the things which is something which can be cultivated, and what is something which can't be cultivated?
Right. I think when it comes to hiring, and I'm not really into recruitment space, but I can say that when I work with a lot of people out there as a part of my team or otherwise, when we go ahead and hire my team, for example, um, there is a mix of aspects that we look at. One, of course, is the capability of carrying out with the immediate task on hand. So if I have my position which is ready, which is a definition of a few traits, a few aspects which are definitely required for the role, I would be focusing on that because that's my immediate requirement, right? But I will not keep just the immediate requirement in mind. What we need to have is a futuristic view of things, and we need to say that, okay, so can I develop this person to the next level, right? I would say that the perfect blend is somebody who has the right skills and has the potential to grow to the next level. May not be in the same area, could be a diversified approach. But definitely, I would not look at somebody who is just good for the role that I'm hiring for and is happy to stick on to that role forever. So we are in a dynamic world. We are in a world where we need to think ahead. We just cannot live with people who are easily satisfied.
Very interesting insight out there, and very practical tip for the people for across all the groups out there. Renuka, we have a small surprise for you. We have a rapid fire round.
मर गए ना अभी तुम नहीं बस I've given enough ज्ञान for the day. At least give me that
No,
kind
no,
of a
no.
discount.
So rapid fire round is a very fast forward round. So I'm sure your viewers and our viewers are really now all glued to. So I'll shoot, right? It's rapid fire. Ready?
Um, I don't know. I'll go mute if I'll just say I cannot hear you if I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Let's give it a try. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can always edit it. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Leaders are intuitive or data driven largely,
Sorry, they are intuitive or
or data driven.
um, a combination. Yeah.
No, no, you need to pick up one.
Yeah.
Rapid
Okay.
fire, fast, time bound.
Intuitive. Intuitive.
Speed or perfection?
Speed or perfection?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, perfection. Yeah.
One adjective which defines your leadership style.
What one word?
Yeah.
Goal oriented.
Okay. Favorite book? Hashtag favorite music, favorite song.
I can give you I can give you a favorite. Can I give you the genre of the books? I like thrillers. I like
Wow,
thrillers.
yes, give us any
Crime
book.
thrillers. Yeah.
Wow, lovely. Your inspiration.
My parents.
What is something which you can't tolerate?
uh, Irresponsibility.
Okay. Courage conviction, curiosity. What appeals most to you?
Courage,
Con-
conviction. What's the third one?
Curiosity.
Um, Courage. Yeah.
Yeah, it resonates very well with your story. One thing which you regret not following. One advice which you have not followed and you regret.
Um, oh, come on. My own advice to myself many years ago about pursuing my passion. A few years when I was doing my management way back in Delhi, I kind of did not go for the right specializations, although I did have that conversation at home. I did not go in to be even before that, I didn't go in to pursue a career in psychology and stuff, which I really wanted. So I guess I always had the HR thingy in me, but I went for finance, I went for other bits. So I just feel I lost out on few years because of that. If I was as sure and yeah, and I could stand up for it, things would have been very different, I guess. So it's a boring one, but yeah.
Most rewarding aspect of being a leader in one word.
Radio Masti, 2 words. It's a combination of everything that anybody can actually look at. It's hard work, it's passion, it's what you want, it's a lot of sweat, it's team, it's me, my passion, it's how people know me. It's a lot.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
the most rewarding. The radio must be what's there right now.
Yeah, and if you want an adjective, then I would say appreciation and respect.
I love the radio musty thing. It covers everything. Okay, one trait which you would want to pass it on to your kids of yours.
uh, One trait, yeah, uh, I would want my daughter to definitely work towards what she enjoys in life, but not forget that it's not only about enjoying, it's about monetizing that passion. Because life is not about just enjoying, and you might enjoy photography and you might take it up as a career, but if it's not paying you to pay your bills, then I guess it all turns out to be very negative and life can be very harsh.
Wow, wonderful. Okay, my last question is one suggestion which you would want to give to your peers and who want to start up entrepreneurship, and one advice to the young leaders.
So to the people who do want to go ahead and get into entrepreneurship, I would say do your homework well. Don't jump into it. It can take away a lot and give less. Yeah. Study every aspect of it. And to the young leaders, I would say that empathize, always be a coach, be a mentor, don't be a boss.
Wow.
That
Wow,
helps.
such a deep and a profound wisdom pearls and insights out there. Renuka, it was wonderful interacting with you. It was a stimulating discussion. I a lot of takeaway for us, especially when life throws challenges. Why me? Not to say this, but try me. And the perfect one needs to have a blend of both hard skills and soft skills. What really is needed is the passion, and your journey has been a perfect example of how one can manage and own various hats, and passion, grit, and something which wherein someone has not ventured but still can make a mark out there. So thank you for joining us and being on this leadership couch and this leadership demystified session. Thank you so much, Renuka.